So, for the Hansard record, if you could please tell us who you are and in which capacity you appear today.
Heather Jones, CEO of Pilbara Heavy Haulage Skills, and also Heather Jones from Success Transport as a director.
Thanks very much, Heather. We will be informal as usual. So, and all the commentary I got while I was wearing the pink shirt, up there with you, Heather, running between Karratha and Tom Price return, where you actually even made me work. And I thank you for that, and all the comments, boys, on the Facebook, just behave. And I was wearing pink because, I will say this, because on Heather's bug deflector there's a set of lips painted on and says, "Are you tough enough?" To which I said to Heather, "Tough enough to do what?" She said, "Wear pink." I said, "Not a drama." So thank you for that. So anyway, Heather, a little bit of banter.
Thank you for coming with us and accepting that invitation.
And you know what? I've warned Senator McDonald that she's going to get an invite before we finish today. All right, so she's all worded up.
I hope so. He's promised me one.
Excellent. Well, you're welcome any time that fits your schedule, and just send me a shirt size so we can get you a pink shirt as well.
Thank you, Heather. I will look forward to that.
Thank you.
There you go. Fantastic. So, Heather, look, for the purpose of the housekeeping and the formalities, I'm going to invite you to make an opening statement before we go to questions.
I've been in the industry for 30 years. I was a legal secretary before I became a truck driver. So my life changed. I needed somewhere, I became a single parent, I needed somewhere to be able to take my children with me. And a friend of mine owned a transport company and said, as long as your girls don't get out of the truck, they can go with you. So that was my introduction to the transport industry. My father was a crane operator and did a little bit of truck work. I grew up on a farm, so I had some skills that were that came in very handy when I became a truck driver. But as far as training goes, there was nothing apart from, here's a set of keys, that's your truck, jump into that, hook up to that trailer and go down and get a load of fertiliser. I'd never driven tippers before. I didn't know what weights I had to load. I didn't know what axle groups weights were. I didn't know pretty much anything. And when I fumbled my way through it without having an accident, killing anybody or doing anything really dangerous, I thought, if it's ever a chance crosses my path, I will make sure that nobody else ever has to go through what I've gone through again. So over the next 10 years, the girls and I travelled around the country in a truck. And during those years, my girls were quite informative, and they came up with things about, for once, Kirsty was with me. She was 11, and we were going through hills. We were loaded with grain, and there was a learner in front of us in a car, and she was being taught by her father or mother or somebody. And every time she went up the hill, she shot up the hill. She got up to the top of the hill. I was then in crawler gear. We got to the top of the hill and she was on her brakes all the way down. So we couldn't get a run up to go up to the next hill. And this happened 3 or 4 times. And Kirsty leant on the air horn and blew the air horn, and I nearly had a heart attack. And she said, "Mum, if this driver isn't being taught correctly, how dangerous is she?" So that sort of put a thought in all of our heads in the truck. And we came up with a whole lot of things that we thought as a family, the 3 of us, would try and implement through the industry as training. I worked for a truck driver, an owner-operator who allowed me to take my children with me. Very, very hard, very, very rare. He was an ex-army transport driver who had brought a couple of trucks himself. His training was, here's your truck, here's your keys, off you go. And at one stage, because I started bringing new drivers through that company so I could train them, and one day I came into the yard and a truck was missing, and one of the girls that had said they would meet me there wasn't there, and I asked where she was, and he said, "I'm training her." So this was in Perth, and I said, "How are you training her sitting here?" I sent her up Greenmount Hill in a Road Ranger 8-wheeler. By the time she gets to the bottom, she'll work it out. So I quit that day because I no longer wanted to be associated with a company who did not train and whose lives of your families meant nothing to him either. I went home that night and my sister Tarina said to me, "Well, you know the solution, don't you? Start your own company." And I said, over my dead body will I ever buy a truck. A short time afterwards, we bought a couple of trucks. We entered a contract. We won the contract to help provide 8-wheelers for the tunnel job in Perth. And at the end of 2009, we had 23 trucks on the ground. We never, ever, ever had to advertise for a driver, ever. We had 8-wheelers, we had semis, we had road trains. Now, the reason for that is we provided training for our new-to-the-industry drivers, and we took on young guys and women and trained them in our trucks. I had 2 insurance claims over those years. Both of them were 2 guys over 45. None of my new drivers ever had an accident or an incident, and some of them were working right in the city when we were building that tunnel, where there was pedestrians, where there was cars, where there was trucks and everything else. So that led us to, the training program back there was nothing like the one that we have now, but that led us to a few years down the track, about 2010, deciding to downsize due to a few bills not being paid by customers and clients, and just focusing on training new-to-the-industry drivers. In 2014, Pilbara Heavy Haulage Girls was formed by a group of females who were concerned about women not getting an opportunity to join the industry. If you are a young man or a male with no experience, the chances of you getting a job in the industry are very limited. If you're a female with no experience, then you've got no hope of getting a job in the industry. When we started Pilbara Heavy Haulage Girls, we did one ABC radio interview about what we were going to do, and within 6 months we had 500 drivers all over Australia on our waiting list. So we are a small family company. We have 3 trucks. We do one-on-one driver training with senior drivers, subject matter experts, and I'm a driver trainer. What we do is we bring new to the industry people. They must have a licence before they come to do our boot camp training, and we put them out on our jobs with our drivers and our clients. It's taken 10 years to get permission from our clients and a lot of proof and hours behind the wheel to show that our new to the industry drivers are not a risk to them and they're not a risk to anyone else on the highway, because they always have a senior driver trainer with them. Since 2016, we've trained 62 drivers. Since 2005, with our previous training, we've had 200 drivers go through our training system. We do not get paid for this. We do not get any funding for this. This is all funded by our own family business. So it's a real live transport company, and we use those funds to put back into these drivers and then place them out with industry. We now have multinationals all over Australia waiting for our drivers that we've trained. Unfortunately, we don't have the funds or the capability to train more than a couple of drivers every few months because we need the real live work to train the drivers in. Currently in Karratha, the rental housing prices have skyrocketed, and they're about $1,000 a week now for a 3-bedroom home. We used to have a staff house, but we can no longer afford that. So to have drivers all over Australia fly to Karratha and spend 1 month with us, we need to accommodate them somewhere, and we do need funding to do that. We can't do it ourselves anymore. We also need companies to invest in their drivers. If you invest in somebody, you have a totally different employee. They feel valued and they will look after your gear and give you a return on your investment in them. The word thank you to anybody will show you a different person. We've found through lots of research and studies that women and men learn differently, and women won't take risks that men will. Women are not risk takers. Women like to drive trucks that are safe and have brakes and have correct tyres, and they also want to know what every button on the dash is for, and if you say don't touch that button, they won't. With a male, you'd say don't touch that button and they will, to see if it's an ejector seat or something like that and shoot them out of the cab. We've had to change our training to fit males and females. We will get a female to the situation where we know she is well and truly confident to go and do a job. Competent, but she won't be confident. So you'll have to go out with her for a few more days or maybe even a week or so. But we don't mind that. We'll do that. You'll get a guy and after a few days, nah, she's right, mate, I'm good to go. So we've had to change our training to suit the guys and say, no, you're not. You need another week or 2 or 3. Something that's really scary is we interviewed a fellow some time back, and he did 1 run to Tom Price and back with us. He had no previous experience on triple road train or anything like that. And we said to him, you need at least 1 month's training, because he hadn't even hooked up trailers or anything, even though he had his MC licence. The work we did, as you did, Senator, is quite difficult. It's hard, it's gates, it's chains, it's straps, it's unhooking and hooking up trailers. It's not just hopping in a truck and driving a preloaded vehicle. This driver went to a quad company, a smaller quad company in Port Hedland, and was given a job driving a quad road train. Now, I don't know how that sits with you, but I actually have my family driving up and down that road, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked that any company would put a driver that has absolutely no experience in a road train with a gearbox, a manual gearbox, not automatic, 200 tonne up and down those hills. This has to change. This has to change. You can advertise all you want for new drivers. They don't exist anymore. The older guys are leaving in droves because of the way they're treated and the red tape. We need the system that we know works. All of us here, and I've heard so many people say, we need to go back to bringing our young children in the trucks, where children and young people learn by observation. You don't need to tell a young person that you're putting a retarder on for a reason. They watch, they absorb. So by the age of 18, that young person has 18 years experience in that truck. We won't let our new drivers go in a truck until they're 20. So by the time they have that 18 years experience, they are 38 years old if you train them the same way as just putting them in a truck with another driver. So this creates such a serious situation. I do understand OH&S, absolutely. I had my 2 girls with me in the truck. They were very obedient and they would not go anywhere unless they held my hand. They wouldn't get out of the cab on farms or anything like that, because I actually truly love my children, and road safety and driver education is a passion of mine. When we train our new drivers, for them to get their licence at the moment, all they need to do is go forward and backwards and back around a corner in a HR. That's it. That's all they need to do. The things that we train, and for our MC licence as well, I think you all know, all you need to do is go forwards and backwards, clock up a couple of hours. You're not even trained to chain down a load or how to tip or anything. I'll just go through a really brief list of some of the things that we train in our package. So we train driving for road conditions. So depending on the surface of the road, so too that affects your vehicles. Now, if you have a drop-off on the side of the road, all you need to do is pull your truck off and your wheel get caught on that. Your last trailer will roll over, or you can roll over. The difference between super singles and the normal size steerers. If you have a front tyre blowout, how are you training your drivers what to do? We train specifically for city work, e.g. around ports and warehouses, and to reverse into docks. Training for country work is completely different. Long line haul and everything associated with country is completely different to city. We train how to cart oversized machinery and a day in a pilot vehicle. Line haul long distance driving takes people who don't mind their own company and preparation, and also you need to be able to deal with mental health. We train for two-up driving. How do you drive when you have another person in a truck that you have no idea? I heard Adam's presentation today about tyre pressures. We train about tyre pressures and how to change tyres, and what tyre pressure you need on a gravel road, and what tyre pressure you need on bitumen, and also how to monitor those. We train for nighttime driving. We train in the rain when we get it up there on the odd occasion. How to train in hot weather, what speed you should be travelling. When the temperature comes up, your speed must come down. We also train when there's livestock on the highways. Nighttime travelling is completely different to daytime travelling. If your truck breaks down and it's an automatic, what do you do and how do you tow it? Where do you put airlines into your truck when it breaks down? When you're travelling on gravel and corrugations, what speed do you travel along that? Outback roads, never ever leave your truck. Companies need to train their own drivers. We also need to have one national system that we utilise within those companies. We train on fatigue management. We train two-way radio communication. Now that might sound funny, but when someone says there's a wobbly coming past you, what does that mean? When someone says, it's all dark up here, buddy, it's good to come around, what does that mean? It does mean your life. Healthy diet and exercise, and also the road condition affects your ability to stay on that highway. Companies that don't seem invested in their drivers will see that rotating door. It's just bums on seats to them. When I was in Perth in 2005 and we were training, I went into a large company who has a really good policy, and the guy who I spoke to was a really awesome guy. But this was a moment of an OMG, and he said to me, if a monkey walked in here and could sit in that truck and steer it, I'd put him on. That is not investing in your drivers. That is not even caring about road safety. That is a really serious situation when we have allocators and people putting drivers in that they just don't care. Things that affect our safety out on the road as well is, and I heard Jan talk about safety areas or safety stops instead of rest areas. I think that's really awesome. We have limited rest areas for our trucks. We just can't pull over when you're 53.5 metres or 60 metres long. We fight for our areas to pull over in with caravanners and backpackers for 6 months of the year. We have beautiful rest areas for caravan and tourists all throughout the country where millions of dollars are spent, and yet for 6 months of the year, there is absolutely no access for trucks. There is toilets, there's rest areas, there's barbecues, there's trees. Trucks have a piece of dirt that's about 4 or 5 metres away from the road. You can't get a good sleep when you're that close to the road with traffic continually passing by. For the 6 months in the northwest that we don't have tourists, we can't use those beautiful rest areas that are designed specifically just for caravans and backpackers. We also, over the years, 20 or 30 years ago, would pull into roadhouses and we would know the people there serving us. They became the people we spoke to. That was our combat for our mental health issues. If you'd been on the road for hours or days or weeks, you'd sit down and you'd know Sally or you'd know Mary, and she'd ask about your family and she'd serve you some good healthy steak and veggies. Now we have all of these service stations owned by multinationals where you can buy a pie pasty, sausage roll or a stinky donut, which then contributes to fatigue. You also have international backpackers, and I know that we need them to service us, but when you ask for a coffee, you might get a crumpet. They don't even understand sometimes what you're asking for. Most of our good service stations, and I just drove down from Karratha, I left yesterday and got here at 2 o'clock this afternoon. One that we always stopped at for healthy food now just has sandwiches. Now I don't know about you, but if you had a sandwich for breakfast, lunch and dinner that was made in South Australia 6 weeks ago, frozen and put out for your breakfast, you might get a little bit cranky. You certainly don't combat your fatigue. Toilets and showers, I heard Jan talk about that as well. We're trying to get our younger drivers, our younger men and women into this industry, and ladies, let me tell you, our young 30-year-old and 20-year-old people will not put up with a toilet roll under their arm running in behind a Spinifex bush. They will not do it. If we want drivers, we need to provide just the basic facilities like we saw in Newman, a shower and a toilet, concrete floor, fantastic facilities.
We saw it in Tom Price.
Yes, we saw it on Price.
We wish we saw it in Newman.
And we use them as well.
Yes.
So after you've spent all day loading your trucks and everything else, you're covered in grease and dirt. I don't want to get back in my truck because I'm going to dirty up my truck. That's where I live. Everything in my truck is spotless and clean. We do take most of our own food, but you can get a call to go as an owner-driver from Tom Price to Kununurra. I've only got enough food in my truck for 4 or 5 days. You can't whiz into the local supermarket with your truck to buy healthy food. Sometimes when you're loaded, you can't drop those trailers. You can't, to then bobtail in and access food. Those roadhouses are our lifeblood. There's one in Halls Creek that I went in to have a shower, and I actually will send you a photograph of it. And even if you put gumboots on, this is a multinational service station.
I know the one you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
You would not even go in there with gumboots and have a shower. And when I walked out, the people serving the local people had rubber gloves on, so they didn't touch their money. And they made me pay $5 for that shower that I couldn't shower in. I went out and bought a bottle of Listerine and cleaned the shower myself with my thong before I had a shower. As far as apprenticeships go, we absolutely need something. I don't know about an apprenticeship. I'd prefer a traineeship or a cadetship, perhaps, but with the same training package delivered to every single company so that that then can be delivered through a TAFE system.
Heather, thank you so much. And there's a lot more to your story that we haven't got time to go through, but let's not forget you schooled your children too. Not only did you have them in the truck with you, so there's a really fantastic story behind, and we won't talk about the people who didn't pay their bills, and you've done a wonderful job there because no one speaks badly of you because you paid all your bills.
Yes.
So what I will do, Senator McDonald, to spend a couple of days with Heather is only enlightening. I can't think of anything else. When you hear of Heather's commitment to training and to the transport, you come back with a completely different view of the world, and makes you even angrier that governments have sat back. We see the training, but Heather, you haven't talked about the cost of the training. You haven't talked about the length of the training instead. And we also see in this nation where exploitation through our foreign visa system and other criminals around here can hand out these licences within 8 days, and bus licences and the like. Senator McDonald, we are getting close to time, and I'm buoyed that you're dying for your invite to travel with Heather from Karratha down to Tom Price and back. But is there any questions that you would like to ask?
Thank you very much, Senator Sterle. And Heather, I just feel a bit inspired by what you've talked about. I mean, we talk about the same in other industries. If you're good to your people, you never have a problem finding people, and you're quite right. You know, you value people and they'll value you and your business and what you do. I will really look forward to coming to visit with you and see exactly what you're doing and to hear more. I have a lot of questions, but Senator Still's quite right. We're up on time, but I will take you up on that very generous offer. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to throw that offer out to any single minister that has the word transport in their portfolio to come and join me for at least 3 days, and then you will really be educated to do your job well.
You probably frighten the crap out of them, Heather. Anyway, sorry, that's me being cynical, because they all should do this. What I might do, just quickly before you do go, Heather, within a minute or so, let's just, for the record, get it on here. The cost that it costs you to do this training properly, and the time.
The time's 160 hours. The minimum it would cost us is $5,000 per person. Sometimes if we don't have any work that we can actually recover our costs on, we have to put like $1,000 worth of fuel in the tank and then let the students drive. We have to pay wages for any person who is in the yard teaching load restraint and tyre changing. We've got an awesome group of people who do volunteer their time, and we also have a fantastic 3 companies in the Pilbara that we work for, and they support our training as well. And if it takes us just a little bit longer, we don't charge them those extra hours that we take. But the best company is Northwest Alliance. They're an Indigenous company, and they have been absolutely fantastic for 8 years. They've employed us. We've given them drivers in return as well, because they've got the bird's eye view to pick out the ones that they want. But they have supported us by giving us work, ongoing work throughout the mines as well.
And if I may just be a bit cheeky and throw this in and give me the secret wave if I've gone too far, but a big call out needs to go to Volvo Australia too.
Absolutely. So Volvo Group Australia have been a huge sponsor, a supporter. This is first in the world. They've given us 2 trucks to be able to use and train in, and that has been a lifeline for us in our training, because they're new modern trucks and they don't break down. So whenever we go out, we always are guaranteed of getting home. They support us with, if something major breaks down, they cover that cost. So we would really like to thank Volvo Group Australia, Mack Trucks, and for their support.
Right, and I'll just leave it on this one. It's embarrassing that the big companies don't do their bit too and get in behind. They all scream for drivers. Now, this will put me offside with a few. They all scream for drivers, but they're not very good at putting their money where their mouth is. So there's the challenge to the big companies. Give us the drivers. Well, you've got to put something back too, as does the government, not you, Heather, the big end of town. Okay.
Thank you.
That'll win me some friends. We'll see how many Christmas cards come out of that. All right. Can I just thank you, Heather, very much for coming down all the way from Crafton to be with us. I'm sure you're going to have a ball. I think also Senator Michaelia Cash would be a wonderful catch if you can get her in the cab too. And I know I've spoken with Senator Cash, and she's certainly not scared to want to learn more about the trucking industry and where she can help. So we need to follow up on that one too. All right, Heather, thank you very much. Safe travels. Kirsty, good to see you here too. Look after Mum. Okay, I know you will. Now, that concludes today's hearings. I just want to thank everyone that's come here today. And to Hansard and Broadcasting, the Secretariat, another amazing job done. Senator McDonald, thank you so much. And on behalf of the committee, that is the end of today's hearing. We now stand adjourned. Thank you.